Manly Hall official, is glad to produce, publish and offer. What will the harvest be? If we gaze out at the seeds, mostly wild oats, which the present generation is sowing so thoughtlessly, we cannot help but think of those immortal words which have sounded down through many generations. What will the harvest be? One, as we look out into the world, it seems that we are producing a generation of anemics, hardly able to drag one foot after the other, who when they reach such a mature age as, say, 18, are broke-eyed, down wrecks of dissipation, who wander aimlessly in ever smaller circles around untimely graves. Let us classify a few of the specimens of modern manhood and womanhood that are to be the lawmakers, the parents, the scientists of the next generation, and ask ourselves again, what will the harvest be? One, as we gaze out in search of true timber for the building of worlds, it seems that we are gazing on the valley of dried bones referred to by the Bible prophet, for there is little material for the building of minds and bodies. Children with old and sunken faces and haggard eyes alone confront us, who while they have not lived long have ruined their opportunity for usefulness in the world of affairs. There is little in common between the humanity of today and the ideals of the human race. A large percentage of our population are morons, and over 50% seem close to savage ignorance. The finer qualities are fast vanishing from our midst, and it seems that real thinking is becoming an impossibility. Responsibility and the realization of life's duties seem unknown, and those who pass through years of learning forget before they pass out of the portals of the schoolroom whatever useful things they may have learned. 5 years after graduation, or even less, about all that the average boy or girl can remember is the football yell and the school dance. Everything else is merely a muddy blur stored away somewhere in an emaciated and undernourished comprehension. If you're enjoying this video and finding value in the content, we kindly ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel. A large portion of our listeners and viewers haven't subscribed yet, and by doing so, you'll help us grow and continue bringing you more high-quality audiobooks. Your support means a lot to us, and it's just one click away. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay connected and never miss out on our latest releases. To speak in words of eloquence and refinement, we are producing as fine a generation of hollow-headed idiots as the world has known in many a day, and the few thinkers that do storm the tide of human indolence are getting ashamed of themselves and crawl away alone to escape the laughter and the jeering of those who know nothing. It disqualifies a man or woman at this day and age of the world to be a philosopher, while those who disqualify them can find no earthly reason for their own being. The thoughts of man are so far from heaven at the present time, and his spiritual ego is so divided from its own true position that to find the centers of consciousness in the world today, it is necessary to dress in asbestos. Now let us analyze this year's crop of dashing anemics, which to tell the truth have been badly frosted and rather worm-eaten. Of course, there are a few exceptions which prove every rule, but generally speaking we can diagnose the young man of this generation something as follows. He is tall, or if not tall at least slender in frame, finance, and brains. Taking a possible 100% as perfect, we shall find the general averages listed as follows. In health he is about 40% human, his lung capacity is about 25% of what it ought to be, his stomach is in convulsions 60% of the time, his eligibility to think sensible thoughts is about 10% out of a possible 100, His ability to smoke bum tobacco is 99% perfect or better. In balancing he is very efficient, but in arithmetic not so good. He knows every burlesque show in town but couldn't possibly find the public library. His ability to make money, 1% ability to make dates, the other 99%. He is beloved by everyone who doesn't ask him to do something for them, and if all goes well and in accordance with harmony and the plan of his being, he should have, say, 9 love affairs a year and be out of work about 80% of the time. He is usually slightly round-shouldered, possibly knock-kneed. He is very important to himself, but absolutely useless furniture to everybody else. He usually gets married before he gets a job, and then has a job trying to stay married. As he doesn't know anything and thinks less, he does nothing but wonder why his romance won't last and his best girl goes off with a handsomer man.
In other words, if we plant this type and wait for the harvest, we are not even likely to find a weed when the gathering time draws near, for there is not enough within the average gallon of our generation to cause even a commotion, much less a harvest. Leaving this angle of the problem to bury itself, if it has the strength, we will pains on and consider Exhibit B, or, as Kipling would call it, the female of the species, and diagnose the case from that angle. Taking the general score of 100%, as before, to represent the perfect, let us briefly consider, list, and label the attributes, accomplishments, and eccentricities of the species feminalis. General physical health considered first may generally be termed 0, spinal curvature common, weak lungs common, anemia common, general lassitude prevailing. Each one of these ailments will be found in from 50 to 60 out of every 100. In other words, if put to a hard day's work, said rare specimens would last until they get started and then would call a halt for lunch. Intellectuality, doubtful in 99% of cases, have never heard of Nathaniel Hawthorne nor Samuel Coleridge, but will look in next month's snappy stories and see if they have written for it. Memory is good but varied, and usually turned into certain channels, most of them useless. Geography, mathematics, and history, 100% imperfect. Occasionally an eccentric education in art and music, especially in landscape gardening, exterior stucco working, and general external decorations where some proficiency is shown occasionally. Memory of dates, scandals, and vacations, perfect, exceptionally fine in remembering names of motion picture stars. Chewing gum, 100% perfect, never sound a flat note. Cooking, a lost art except for cooking up trouble. Domestic sciences, nil. Mending, darning, etc., ditto. Usually proficient in dancing except when feet hurt, can wear 5-inch heels without staggering, good appetite, especially for shrimps, sardines, and Granada olives. Common sense, nil. Ambition, 0, movie ambitions accepted. Average length of life, 30, number of marriages averaging from 3 to 20, strongest asset, pugnacious temperament of her own, plenty of energy to hold up one end of a scrap, sometimes both ends, said scrap usually of a domestic nature, but not sufficient energy to do anything useful. These form the leading features and hopeful prospects of our human race. Politeness, courtesy, simplicity, all of these sweeter and finer sentiments have been discarded for lack of time. Fineness of quality, love of study, art and science, and all these things which tend to elevate are forgotten. Elevators do not seem to be needed for most of the pool rooms are downstairs and the dance halls are on the main floor. So, with a cigarette snuggled under one ear, a squashed fedora hat over one eye, his nose squinted to one side, and his eyes half closed with a drooping expression which is enhanced by a gracefully receding chin, we find him embellished with a high white collar and Blair tie, big feet, and a small consciousness, perambulating towards the nearest dance hall or nth-class movie with his steady swinging on his arm. So far as she is concerned, at this day and age of the world we are not surprised at anything. She may be smoking a meerschaum or a Virginia cheroot or chewing tobacco, no one knows. But with a swing like a tar and a general makeup resembling an ex-prize fighter she swaggers along. And these two are about to unify for the general betterment of creation to go through life together, sans brains, sans sense, sans everything, sans end. With apologies to Omar. And if these are to be planted in the great half-acre of the world's works, we ask you again to figure out on the pure principles of mathematics what will the harvest be. 1. There are three things which, if considered and lived, will make the day of mastery closer for the individual who discovers their mystic truth. First, we must use the powers that we have in the best and most constructive way possible, for it is only those who show ability who will be given greater responsibilities. Second, we must look for greater opportunities to be given the power to fill time. Third, you must improve yourself every day so that when the appointed time comes you will be a credit to your work and to your God. The Divine Masquerader. There are many people in the world at the present time who are not what they seem to be. There are those who appear to be poor but who conceal under the veil of poverty riches unnumbered. There are others who seem to be well supplied with the things of this world, but who in reality when the last great moment comes have little either in this world or the worlds to come. There are those who seem to be honest but who have evolved the subtle spirit of dishonesty. There are some who claim to be spiritual, but whose lives tell only of sordid things. Then there are others who claim nothing who are listed with the saviors of mankind. In truth, the world is not always as it looks to be, but it is always what it makes itself.
Now, in the universe there is a power which we can accurately describe as the great unknown. This power is the sublime and supreme mystery, and for the sake of clearness we have named it the Divine Masquerader, for in truth that is just what it is, a strange and mystic one who masks himself under 1,000 disguises, is known in 1,000,000 different ways, yet is ever the same. One of the great incentives in life is man's eternal search for something, a strange and unknown power, which he realizes is valued beyond the gains of earth. He only knows this power as the masquerader, that mystic spirit of uncertainty, for none know where he will come next or how he will appear when he does come, but consciously or unconsciously all growth depends upon him. For thousands of years this divine trickster has been masking under the guise of simple things. He is always with us yet remains unknown because he loses his personality and is unseen behind the part he plays. Shakespeare was right when he said that the world is a stage, for the Divine Masquerader is the greatest actor of all. He lives and is the very part that he plays. The old symbols of comedy and tragedy were the smiling face and the downcast face, and these faces are the masks of life. Behind the mask of an ever-changing personality there is hidden a soul which is ever the same. the great centers of spiritual consciousness expressing through this endless kaleidoscope of ever-changing manifestation are animated by the powers of a single mind. The life is always the same, but the mask is ever-changing. There is a certain Mr. Raffles, a mysterious individual, and he has a price upon his head, for he becomes the servant of all who discover him. The alchemists symbolized him as the gold in the heart of the dross surrounding its precious center with a disguise of worthless stone. Just so with the masquerader, for he conceals the greatest prize beneath the homeliest mask, and every minute he is before your eyes donning a disguise which will bring him into your environment. The divine masquerader cannot live without a form, but he changes this form perpetually. He is eternally whispering to you, but his disguise is too subtle for you to penetrate. What is the motive behind the actions of this strange being? Why does he hide his light eternally from the eyes of man? He is not trying to conceal himself, but in reality, uses his disguise that he may mingle with you and labor for you in ways that you can understand. This is the motive of the disguise, that coming down from the great divine, he may reveal himself in simple things and labor where you can understand and know him. He disguises himself in a way that will bring him close to the heart of everyone, but as the average seeker after the light looks for the great, the weird, and the unusual rather than the simple and the practical, we seldom recognize the masquerader who is as one of us in our daily walks of life. We should realize, however, that in the circle of our daily happenings there are many things that are not what they seem to be. For behind appearances is this jaunty spirit of concealment who has put on a domino to appear to you as something that you know. If your daily labor is with a pick and shovel, somewhere among those working with you the masquerader will be hiding. If you are of the houses of riches and the homes of plenty, somewhere among them he will be concealed. His disguise is always perfect, but man overlooks the simple and the direct and seeks the great and the spectacular. If the Master Jesus should come to the world today, who would recognize him? We would receive him if he descended in a cloud of glory surrounded by a host of angels, but who would know him if he walked the earth in rags? Everyone has seen the masquerader today, but few have known him and fewer still have claimed the reward. This mysterious individual is the keyhole that leads to an understanding of how the door of life should be opened. Everyone has met and shaken hands with this divine one who is not what he seems. Tomorrow, you will meet him again and he will seem to be different, but ever he is the same. All the way through life there is never a moment when he will leave you, but with only the masquerader as a companion most people feel alone. While we judge things only by what they appear to be, the masquerader will never be found, but when man learns to judge things for what they are and what is within them, then this mystic stranger will be unveiled by the one who has become master of personalities. No one knows through whom this masquerader will work next. It may be you. Every one of you may tomorrow become unconsciously the dwelling place of this divine one traveling incognito. The initiates of our world are never known, for they go through the world living like the people they seek to serve, shrouding their divine powers in robes of clay. The spirit of the masquerader is always close to the hearts of men. It is the unknown quantity, the missing power, but in truth it is all there is to live for. The problem that confronts man is to know this stranger when he sees him, to realize that opportunity comes masquerading every day, that truth and light and knowledge and greater understanding come to us in strange disguises every hour and moment of our lives. When those come up to us who need our aid, We think little of them, for they are poor and have nothing to give. We do not see the masquerader concealed there, the unknown one behind the mask, but at that moment there comes to us an opportunity to do something worthy. An opportunity is the divine masquerader who will serve all who discover him. The masquerader plays as our enemies. He shines out from those we dislike, for he is the opportunity of reconciliation. He shines out to us from all with whom we come in contact, and we must wander the earth in rags until we find opportunity. He is so subtle in his workings and so perplexing that we are often in doubt whether to accept him or reject him. One minute he inhabits us, and a second later the soul of another. Growth is the divine result of opportunity and is hidden behind every hard knock of life. The spirit of growth is disguised as a problem or a disappointment which wrecks and tears our soul. He is like the spirit of temptation that seeks to lead us astray and still prays that he may fail. For growth is the divine good which man gains from trouble. Disappointment and failure are the gloom masks behind which the true actor is concealed. When we tear these masks from the spirits of negation, there is nothing behind but opportunity. When we tear away the mask of the devil, we find God underneath, for the devil is just another disguise of the masquerader. When someone robs us, cheats us out of everything we have, it seems a terrible injustice. But tear away the mask and opportunity is all that is really there, for tests like these are opportunities to do something great and to rise above our grief. When we lie on the bed of sickness, tear away the mask from disease and we find just opportunity, for the divine masquerader gazes down upon all these things. When someone tears us down and leaves us broken at the feet of our life work, tear away the mask and we find again the same smiling face of opportunity. The masquerader hides himself under the discouraging, disheartening experiences of life. They are the masks and shams with which he is trying to help us to greater works. He is giving us the opportunity to master him, and every time we win a battle with him, we unmask the spirit of perversion and find the face of God smiling up from every disappointment. Over the battlefield with its shot and shell floats the spirit of opportunity. Even death itself, when unmasked, is the spirit of infinite growth. As the last sail of the ship vanishes beneath the waves, nothing seems to remain but destruction, but even there is opportunity. All life conceals behind its strange and mystic workings just one great principle: the opportunity for growth. We are here to learn, and our knowledge is of greater value than happiness unless we can be happy with the knowledge of work well done. Every disappointment, every problem, every hard knock of life is given to man that he may grow, and in truth each one of them is opportunity in disguise. Most people cannot agree with this concept. Few can see in those who injure them the face of opportunity. There is in every life a place where there seems to be no redeeming feature. We know that failure must dwell there, for opportunity could not so disillusion us. Yet unveil the problem and you will find the same sweet spirit there. Every enmity is an opportunity for friendship. Every sorrow is an opportunity to rise to greater heights. We call him failure, but he is in truth the maker of success. We call him discouragement, but without him the great achievement is impossible. Always found where you do not want him, always pointing out the difficult things, confronting us with problems which seem more than we can handle. He is neither popular nor desired, and yet he is the creator of gods. There is but one Spirit, the Spirit of good, the Spirit of God. Everything is an opportunity to lift or be lifted. No two people can meet, but what opportunity is with them? In every life there are 3 or 4 great opportunities, and most lives are not successful because people have not learned to recognize them. People cry out to God, saying, "Oh, Lord, give me this or give me that, and please, Lord, give me something." But those who are wise know that the only thing they have a right to ask is the thing they have so often refused: opportunity. People want the fruits without the works necessary to produce them. They do not want a chance to work, they wish the rewards first. They want success upon a silver platter. They do not realize that God's greatest gifts to man are the powers of negation and opposition, which stimulate the soul to greater effort. If opportunity came and gently tapped us on the shoulder and said, "Kind sir, I am opportunity, and I am going to give you a chance to be great," he could not even wake us up. We would merely roll over on the other side and sleep calmly until fate gave us a rap. But the Lord of creation, with his divine wisdom, has decreed that man must go out and look for opportunity as the farmer looks for woodchucks. You may have to smoke him out or choke him out, set a trap for him, or maybe crawl into the hole and drag him out by the tail. The world is failing, not because it does not gain results, but because it does not recognize opportunity and seek to make use of it. The loss of an opportunity is a damning failure, the only failure in all the universe. Fools can follow where wise men lead. Many can make good when someone else has shown them the opportunity, but the only success is when we discover it ourselves. The world finds what it looks for, and there are many looking for opportunity, but it is usually an opportunity to evade work, and to find a soft snap is too often considered the acme of wisdom. The world is a genius when it comes to digging up skeletons and a wonder in analyzing reputations, and there are experts of all kinds on unnecessary lines. But if people would only take out their high-powered magnifying glasses, put on their checkered suits and turn Sherlock Holmes to detect opportunity, they would find a new world opening before them. Remember, when you are laboring to unfold and bring opportunity to others, that you are then the masquerader yourself, and your duty is to remain unknown, to become the spirit of good forever concealed behind the mask of the masquerader. Therefore, if you are working with friends whose profession is that of digging ditches, do not go down in a tall silk hat and spats and deliver a doxology, for you will only lose all opportunity to be of service. You must disguise yourself and your concepts as the masquerader. You must have your mask and become a master of makeup, and be able to help people where they are and not where you are. When people lose themselves in the parts they are playing, they are no longer acting but are living many lives in one. As surely as every living thing is to you an opportunity, so you are the masquerader to all other things. Our duty is to learn to play many parts. The divine masquerader knows all parts and just steps from one to another, that he may serve people where they are by disguising himself as one of them. Let us realize that the great master is the one who can do the best to others without himself being seen. So let each of us play this wonderful game of the masquerader, slipping into other lives unknown, so far as personality is concerned, just to help someone along the way, and then to vanish again as the spirit of opportunity, to receive and to give in the name of the divine masquerader. The Indian snake charmer. Travelers have ever been to India who have not been fascinated by the street jugglers and snake charmers of the East. You will see these old dilapidated-looking individuals, covered with very little clothing and a great deal of dirt, sitting cross-legged on the ground, while before them is a little native basket containing an Indian cobra. The fakir plays upon a three-note flute or reed, and as the strange sounds come from it, the snake sticks its head out of the basket and slowly rises upward, lifting nearly one half of its body off the ground. There it sits coiled up, its puffed head swaying back and forth to the tune of the snake charmer, and it seems hypnotized by the notes that he plays until he can handle it or do anything he desires with it. There is a great secret of interest to the occultist and the mystic concealed under the story of the snake charmer, for all of these ancient rituals and ideas have sacred origins, and in the light of the ancient wisdom let us analyze the occult meaning of snake charming. In India, the spinal spirit fire is called Kundalini and is symbolized as a serpent. According to the ancients, in the undeveloped man, this snake lies coiled in the basket of the solar plexus. It is from this point that it is raised up the spinal canal through the spinal nerves by means of the development of the neophyte. This spinal spirit fire is the force which carries with it the power of spiritual sight and illumination. The three-pipe flute or the reed with three openings symbolizes the three keynotes of spiritual growth, namely thought, emotion, and action. When man plays prole, or harmonies upon his three bodies, the flute of Krishna, then Kundalini, the sleeping serpent, rises out of its basket and ascends through the blossoms on the spinal column, awakening them with its power. In India today, this is called snake charming, and its mystic message is perpetuated by the fakirs on the street who themselves know nothing of its inner significance. Spiritual fellowship. There are now over 150 organizations in the United States alone which have brotherhood as their motto. Nearly all of the religious concepts of our day are based upon the rock of spiritual fellowship, unity, and truth, and in nearly every case we find their members sneaking down dark alleys late at night with sandbags and lead pipes, lying in wait like beasts of prey, with thoughts far from loving fellowship for all members of other than their own groups. Over their front door is a glorious gilded motto with such inspiring words as "Love ye one another" or "Fellowship in spiritual conclave," while under the back stoop there are other sentiments expressed, such as "Do one another and do 'em good, each good soak deserves another," and other similar epigrammatic concepts of sweet charity and loving service. It is the same with individuals as with organizations. Our leading exponents of divine brotherhood spend half their time knocking chips off other people's shoulders or hoisting young oaks on their own. Where there is no brotherhood, there is no growth, no spirituality, and no power. Man has a very analytical mind, and it seems that he loves to argue, to pick flaws in, to dislike and to find fault with individuals, when it is just as easy to seek the divine spirit of good and truth within themselves and those with whom they come in contact. It is a very sad thing to see how much brotherhood is preached and how little it is lived in the daily life of our people. Among those who claim to be spiritual, there is a wonderful opportunity to combine forces, to fight with the sword of truth and light side by side, unselfishly and unreservedly laboring for the furtherance and expression of that noble spiritual teaching which the world recognizes as the ancient wisdom. Brotherhood is the key of the new age. It is shouted from the pulpit and rostrum, and its noble ideals are portrayed in every expression of life, and yet nowhere is there so little of it, it seems, as among THO.SE who claim to be fellow servers and brother workers in the name of the one God. The inevitable result of this competitive and combative expression of religion is the undermining of noble work, the tearing down of great ideals, and the ruination of ethical enterprises, for where the spirit of cooperative brotherhood, one for all and all for one, is missing, there can be no work done either for God or for man. One of the great things that the exponents of Christianity and occult philosophy must learn to realize is that the desire for self-superiority is the greatest known cause of competitive ethics, and that when one man seeks to be greater, holier, or more exalted than his brother, he loses entirely his usefulness in the plan of human evolution. Spiritual workers must cease to feel that they are better than anybody else. They must come down off their high horses. They must kick out their pomposity and persnicutiveness and annihilate forever the spirit of conspicuation which they manifest in every expression of their lives. Side by side, each helping the other, each working for the other, each sweet and kind to the other, they were born and must forever remain free and equal. Simplicity and self-abnegation are the secret of spiritual power, for only those can have power who save it. Those who waste it can no longer have it. The exercise of power constructively without the taint of dominance is the test of the soul, and the one who masters and passes successfully these four tests is the one who has learned to possess power without exercising it. The exercise of power over others by those who have not reached a conscious unity with the divine initiators results only in competitive theologies and combative lives, and where such sentiments exist the Spirit of God is not. The initiate is always marked and known among men by his sweet simplicity and non-irritating personality. He carries no chips, issues no commands, demands no obedience, and hampers the free expression of none, and as a result he is surrounded by those types of spiritual entities who will serve for the love of serving and will obey him unto death, because he has never asked them to carry out a single command. With 150 organizations preaching the principles of brotherhood in the United States through hundreds of thousands of branches, it would seem that we should see more of it, but the end will never be gained while the spiritual consciousness of individuals is a slave to personality, for it is eternally personalities that open the way to misunderstandings. The spirit of man is never insulted by anything, for it recognizes nothing but its God. The spirit of man is never tempestuous nor fussy, nor does it have that terrible habit of straining at a gnat and swallowing a camel. Neither is it on the lookout for opportunities to express power. These things are of no interest to the spiritual consciousness, but they do mold to a great degree the personalities of living creatures, and man is only subject to irritabilities and temperamental uncertainties when he is mastered by either his personal dignity, his conceit, or his emotional perquisitiveness. It is here that the spiritual student has a glorious opportunity of showing the beauty of his creeds, but in the majority of cases he just becomes another swell-headed idiot who proves by his every thought and action that he hasn't nearly as much spirituality as the average guinea pig. Man cannot serve two masters, and when he is a slave to his own feelings and is jealously guarding them, he cannot be a servant of his God. But, alas, at this day and age of the world, man is supremely jealous, supremely selfish, and divinely egotistic, not to mention heavenly impossible. He may fondly believe that he has mastered these things and is qualified to stand in the slippery places, But when he has really reached that state of simplicity and selflessness, he has arrived at that stage of consciousness when he isn't sure of anything except the need of further effort. Selfishness is the true cause of contention. It is the basis of religious and fraternal eruptions and individual brawls. When people claiming brotherhood are living like cats and dogs, and organizations whose keynote is fellowship are at each other's throats half the time, we cannot blame people for wandering through the world faithless and apparently disillusioned. The reason for these conditions is that selfish fellowship is based upon the me-first platform. There is no fellowship where there is inequality of ideals or personalities, or where people build walls around themselves. There is no fellowship where there are people who egotistically know that they know more than others, for fellowship consists in the bridging of gaps and the uniting of opposites, and brotherhood stands for the cognition of the fundamental oneness of life and form. Too often this is forgotten, and in order to produce the sham mask of apparent cooperation, many have to bow in unwilling servility at the feet of domineering overlords. Such a process in which people serve because they must and are restricted in their expression of individuality produces only eye-servants who do as we will when they are with us, but hate us and belittle us behind our backs, in which case there is no one to blame but ourselves. Domineerance is not productive either of growth or spirituality, but is the war cry of personality, and that war cry is the death rattle of a dying civilization based upon the principles of individual omnipotence. Brotherhood consists of overlooking unpleasant conditions, and not altogether seeking to exterminate them. It demands the breaching of the aura of impregnable egotism which surrounds individuals, and the uniting of the spiritual consciousness consciously, for unconsciously it has been one since the beginning of the world. People must learn to be elastic, never rigid and taut in their lives, always ready to bend to the center, their motto being, "I'd rather be imposed upon 100 times than to impose upon another once." The answer may come back that when we live in this world, we are the brunt of injustice, but that problem does not concern the spiritual seeker, for being absolutely selfless there is nothing to be hurt, offended, or angered by the world's returns. When man is subject to the actions of others and his happiness depends upon the subjugation of those about him, he is still living in those barbaric ages when physical brawn was the keynote of worth. The sting must be taken out of life before brotherhood can be established, and brotherhood is the one and only base of spirituality. The brotherhood of body cells makes the individual, the brotherhood of organs perpetuates his form, the brotherhood of brain cells makes possible his thoughts, and the brotherhood of worlds makes possible his cosmic evolution. Wherever nature is expressing herself, in the higher and more divine sense, she is divinely cooperative, placing herself upon the level of all things and never standing above looking down. Life is filled with petty jealousies and stings. It is filled with the love or revenge, the holding of grudges, satisfaction at others' discomfiture, and all those hellish little qualities which produce pandemonium on earth. There is always a certain satisfaction which we feel when we can discomfort a rival. There is a certain glory with which we gloat over unpleasant conditions into which we entangle people whom we do not like. All of these qualities belong to the lowest, most detestable and most hopelessly materialistic concepts of life, which are the result of the development and encouragement of organs and centers of consciousness which are entirely personal and selfish in their sentiments. These conditions are no more present anywhere than among our spiritual students who go around perpetually seeking for opportunities to pick scraps, or else they are so covered with chips and sharp points that people cannot get close to them without friction of some kind being started. If you tell these very same people that they are mean, niggardly, and undesirable, they will loose the wrath of the gods upon your head and leave you in a flutter of righteous wrath, because you have failed to agree that hair-splitting, bacteria amputating and dissecting and concept pulling is not the height of spiritual and ethical professions. There is a divine quality in the human soul which overlooks things. To this quality grudges, buffets, etc., do not attune themselves, and there are those who are capable of transmuting every unkind thought, every harsh word of others into such a shower of blessings that they are ready to worship the person who has offended them or who sought to offend them. We must have more such people as this, who sweetly and unselfishly go through life blessing those who despitefully use them and praying for those who injure them. It is safe to say that those who do not forgive and overlook injuries and mistakes will sometime wait a long while to have theirs forgiven. It is within the spiritual range of everybody to pick a fuss. It can be done without half trying under any known human conditions, and if you are looking for trouble you will always be able to find it within the aura of your acquaintances, for it sticks its nose out of every conceivable place at every inconceivable moment. Anyone can catch and express irritation and can do so without any spiritual training, although it usually takes considerable experience to become truly proficient in insolence and meanness, qualities for which many people have earned diplomas. It takes, however, a master to go through the world without picking a fight or having an argument or raising Ned with somebody under the glorious arch of some religious or fraternal order which has love 6 you one another painted in gold letters over its door. If you listen to some noble exponents of brotherly love and divine simplicity, spiritual fellowship, etc., when their acquaintances are not present you will hear such sweet sentiments as these pouring out from their souls when some unsuspecting creature steps on a pet corn. You dee little runt you. You bluey, smooey, bang woof. You insect. You rat. You microbe. You non-entity know nothing. You crook. Thief. Burglar. Grafter. You blang. Such sweet sentiments as these are not uncommon among occultists, especially when two combating theorists get together. They take books, inkstands, hymnals and Bibles, open them to paragraphs on brotherly love and slam them in each other's faces, praying to the Lord to give them R11 within their right arm. Or if they are not of a violent nature they will sulk for 3 or 4 months over a stolen lollipop, or because someone told them the earth was flat instead of round, or that their favorite teacher looked like a zebra or an ape. So it goes. And every night theoretical stretcher-bearers are carrying out the combatants from mystic and occult gatherings, while astral entities in forms resembling daggers, bombs, and stilettos flit around the halos of our divine incarnations of spiritual wisdom. And so the world wags. The Brotherhood label is still on the bottle, but it is often filled with carbolic acid and H2SO4. Brotherhood is a very elusive insect which can slip away in a very few moments and seldom survives a hard word or hasty action. We do not expect a great deal of it among prize-fighters and professional thugs, but we do expect a respectable amount of it from people claiming to be following in the way of initiates. But as usual, blessed is he who expected nothing, for we seldom find it in a truly usable form. Below we list a recipe for the development of brotherhood within the soul of anyone who will forget his own likes and dislikes long enough to follow it. We might add at this point that there are no students too great, too advanced, or too close to initiation to be brothers, for the greatest of all is the one who will give his all for his enemy every day of his life. The recipe is as follows. First, forget yourself. You are not very much anyway, and nothing will be lost if you forget what you are. If by any chance you feel that you are made of a little better stock than your fellow men, you are merely sit, go out and run around the pasture for a while. If by any chance you have within your soul that inherent feeling that you are close to God, remember that the one who is closest is the one who has come the closest to hammering down the wall of personality with its likes and dislikes, which in the majority of cases is thicker than rhinoceros hide. Second, put padding on all your sore points. If you have certain traits of temperament which stick out and get in other people's way, chop them off and use for firewood. They don't mean anything anyway. If you have any bunions, trim them. If you don't keep them short, don't blame anybody else for stepping on them. If there are any places where the skin if off, slivers under the nail, etc., get them out and forget them, never nurse them. If you have boils, carbuncles, or spiritual itches, keep them to yourself until cured. Nobody else wants them. And if you have a mean streak on, jump into the ocean from the highest building you can find, and be sure there are plenty of rocks beneath. This will at least divide you from your personality in very short order. Not to be done literally, however. Third, if there is anyone you do not like, try to figure out why you don't, and you will find it much easier to like them than to find the reason for the dislike. It is impossible to find any real reason for 99% of the grouches which fill the aura of our being. Most have had a case of stomach trouble, and they started to hate someone because of the general discomfort that filled their being, and once having 7 started to dislike, they do not want to admit their mistake by making up. Fourth, if you happen to be jealous of somebody, forget about that too. Only small minds are jealous. Learn to do or to be the thing in which they excel, which is the cause of your jealousy, and if you must have consolation, look for it in the dictionary. You will find it listed under the C's. Fifth, if you think for a moment that the Lord has placed you in charge of his workmen, forget it. There are many things to forget, and most people would be much better off if they entirely forgot themselves. Cooperate with everyone, but never try to be the big cheese, for it is full of holes and doesn't mean much. Many people who think they are holy are merely holy or filled with a masterful combination of bubbles and general disintegration, which lends that heart-enthralling aroma to Roquefort and Limburger. Sixth, when looking for a mean disposition, or when we find it necessary to expend animal exuberance on something, let us look in the mirror and behold the greatest fool that ever lived, bar none, and realize that in the average case the only point wherein we excel is in the ignorance that our laurels are uncoveted. In other words, man is a compendium of foolishness and sore spots, and he howls in 5 different colors when anyone hurts him, leans roughly on some soft little corn, or steps on his tail. Consequently, he jumps for the other fellow's face and starts something which makes it impossible for his neighbors to sleep or his world to be at rest. In other words, dissension, stewing, fussing, jealousy and deceit, not to forget soreheads, are nothing more or less than the teething process of human consciousness which, while not serious, keeps the individual in a fever for years. It doesn't mean anything, but only shows how awfully small we are to people whom we are trying to impress with our size. So let us call it off, forget it, have a new sign painted and hung up to cover the old one which was smashed in a peace fight, and still claim fraternity and brotherhood as our slogan and try to do better, realizing that any fool can start a fuss, but it sometimes takes the Lord Himself to stop it when once started. Therefore, let us follow in the footsteps of the truly wise man who takes the sign of brotherhood away from the door and hangs it in his own heart, there to shine forth as an illuminating light through his daily actions, his thoughts, and his ideals. Copyright 2025 by Manly Hall Official. Thank you for listening. Please consider to subscribe, like, and share to help the channel growth, new videos on a daily basis.